Hi guys, I'm Adam Thomas. Thank you all so much for being here. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to click the subscription button, click the little bell icon, that'll get you notified of all my latest updates and videos. If you enjoy this content, make sure to smash the like button and drop any comments if you want to know anything else about what we're going to talk about today. This is part 3 of my 3-part how to tattoo series. Part 1 was how to do the design, part 2 is putting the stencil together, part 3 today we are going to be tattooing the rose on this pound of flesh. If you haven't already seen part 1 and part 2, check the links in the description. You can go and check those out, which will get you up to date to where we are now. I am going to give you a little sneaky recap while I go and get a few bits and bobs to get tattooing. So with all that being said, let's check out these recaps and I'll see you ready to tattoo this afterwards. So with the iPad, I'm going to click take a photo. With the curves, I'm going to keep it real nice and simple. On top of the hand, I'm going to click and hold the leaves. That's pretty much our lens flares done. The photo that's underneath, then it's just... I'm going to find technical pen. So at this point, that is pretty much all of the outline. It's all going to sit and fit. Stencil. Now there's no harm at this point in taking your time. I don't know how well you can see that. So first things first, I'm going to give you a rundown of all the kit that I have now laid out. This is pretty much everything that I use on a day-to-day basis from a tattooing point of view. Obviously we're not in my tattoo studio, so this isn't necessarily the perfect environment to tattoo in the fact that it's not sterile. There's going to be a lot of things that I'm not going to be doing to the book in that sense. This is mainly just from a technique point of view of tattooing, so yeah, go easy on the comments. So starting from the left and moving to the right, we'll go through everything that I use, and then we'll dive straight in. So the first thing we're going to look at are the Select Black Latex Small Gloves. I use latex, I also use small gloves. Not that I've got small hands, but I like a nice tight fitting glove. These are Uni Gloves, these are my sponsor. This video isn't sponsored by Uni Gloves, but I am sponsored by Uni Gloves. My other sponsor that I'm sponsored by is Jet Black. They do a lot of PPE and wraps and stuff like that, sort of products. So these I will be using the bottle bags, the grip covers, and a few other little bits and bobs from Jet Black. Just move the arm out of the way. Micropore tape, I'm going to use that to tape on just a few little bits and bobs down. Normally that's just used for taping up at the end of the session, but it's nice to have that there just in case. Ink caps, I'm using just a fairly sort of medium-sized sort of ink cap. It's not going to be a massive piece. I may have to reload, but like chances are that's as much ink as I'm going to need today. Cartridges that I'm going to be using, I've got a 7 curved mag from Bishop. These are the Bishop V2s. If you haven't seen the video, again, links in the description. I did a review on the V2s. Also with the V2, I've got a 9 tight liner. And from the Tatsol, the MV Gen 2s is a Type 3 liner. Mainly using the Tatsol just because the little rubber finger rest bit just makes it really comfortable. So Bishop, you should definitely pop one of those on. Machine that I'm using today, again, mainly just because of ease of doing it down here as opposed to upstairs where I've got power packs and stuff like that. I'm going to be using the Cheyenne Solnova Ultimate. This is the wireless machine from Cheyenne. It's amazing, really good machine, packs a punch, so it's really good. I've got a pen, this is from BJ Betts, Alphabets. Again, I did a review on those, so you can check that video out. There'll be a link in the description, more than likely. This is just in case any of the stencil comes off, or if I need to freehand any little bits on, I've got that to hand. My water bottle, standard water bottle, but using the bottle bag from Jet Black. That's just got green soap in it and water. The Vaseline based product that we're going to be using today is Inkies. I've used Inkies for, which way? That way. I use Inkies Green Glide. I use this every single day and I have done for years. I think it's an amazing product, keeps the skin nice and calm, allows you to tattoo really nice and easily, gets the skin nice and lubricated so you can wipe everything off. It's a lot more expensive than standard Vaseline, but it's definitely worth that investment. Inks that I'm going to be using today are Nocturnal, again, sort of from Bishop-ish. They're technically Eternal inks, but they are incredible inks. Really simple black and grey. No bells, no whistles in there, but it does create a really nice effect on the skin. Stays really solid and black, heals really nice and grey. And then paper towels. That's pretty much everything I'm going to be using today. I'm not going to probably get any more needles out. The only other needle that I might use would be a 15 curve mag. This doesn't look too bad. I might go and grab one later on just to do some of the background, just because I've got a slightly bigger area to cover, but we'll see how we get on. The great thing with the cartridge system, as you probably already know, is there's no need to get everything out at the start of the day, just in case you don't need to use it. That way you're not wasting any needles. You can just get to a certain point, figure out that you need a tight one that's going to cover a bigger area. You can blister pack that straight out, and yeah, you're not wasting any products, and it gives you that ability to get the perfect size needle for the job that you're doing. So with that being said, I'm going to set up the rest of the few little bits, get some ink out, get everything where I want it to be, and then we'll start tattooing. So yeah, I think we'll probably just time lapse this bit. So there we go, guys, that is pretty much how I like to be set up-ish. Obviously when I've got my station, everything is exactly the same every single time. Just to give you a little run through what I've got and where it is. So for me, I'm a creature of habit. I like to keep everything very uniform, just so I know what everything is and I know how to get to things very quickly and easily. I don't get confused by anything. So running through the needles, what I tend to do is have like my smallest needle sort of on the left-hand side and everything else on the right-hand side. So we've got the 3 liner first, and then we've got the 9 liner, and then we've got the 7 curve mag on the end. Inks, same sort of situation. So my first ink cap, that's going to be my solid black, and I've got dark, medium, light. The last cap is left open, that's going to be for white later. We don't want to put that out too early, otherwise it's going to get all crusty and dry up. We might as well just put that out on the end when we need it. My pile of paper towels, I've got my water bottle ready to go. I've got a little tiny bit of inkies, so apart from that, I think we're all good. For this process today, we've got a slightly different setup. Obviously, we've got the main camera shooting at me here. We've got camera 2, which is over here. So we've got this slightly on the side angle, so you can get a better view. So with that being said, let's start tattooing. So I'm pretty much all ready to go here. I've got my reference just sort of where I want it. It's not ideal, but it will sort of do. So that's on the iPad, so I can pinch and zoom in and do everything I want to do. The stencil, if you can sort of see here, it's pretty much on there. It's not the great stencil, especially around the knuckles and stuff like that, but that's not the end of the world. With my reference being here, we'll be able to figure out exactly where those edges are, and that's not going to be too much of an issue. The first thing that I'm going to look at doing is using my lightest grey wash. I'm going to whip over sort of all of the lines, all the solid lines that are in my stencil. So if you watched my how to make a stencil video, I think I go on about the reason why I do solid lines and dotted lines. So the dotted lines basically are just going to show where my shading is, so where any shadows are, where the highlight sections are. The solid lines, they refer to the outside edges, so anything that isn't necessarily a line, but it's a defined edge. So what we're going to do is use the lightest wash from Nocturnal. I'm going to use the 3 round liner, and we're just going to hit every single outline. Normally with skin, that will heal out, so you're not going to get any line, but through the tattoo process you should be hiding those lines anyway. We don't want to see lines in realism, we want everything to look nice and realistic. So first thing we're going to do then is just bang our liner. We're going to make sure that one with the right way around, and then we've got the right sort of throw. So I'm just going to wet my paper towel. Nothing too wild, I just want it to be slightly moist so I can take everything off the surface of the skin, but without running off my stencil. Me being right-handed, I'm going to start from bottom right and try and get through to top left. It's going to be a little bit different with this because I'm going to be doing the scratch line or the grey line. What that's going to mean is that I physically can't rub everything off. By the time I've done all that, I'm going to have lines through everything, which are going to be tattooed in. So yeah, let's just dive straight into it. I'll put on a little bit of the inkies. We're going to go straight in with the light wash, and then we're just going to start with this leaf down at the bottom. So the way I do my leaves is the same every single time. I get my outlines in first, And then once I've got all the solid lines in, I can just bump them up with the slightly bigger liner. And then we'll start shading those in. So with roses, like I say, I'm a creature of habit, in the sense that I do the same thing every single time. So I'll get these leaves in first, and then we'll go around, get a bit of background in. So then all my light edges, I don't need to worry about putting any shading next to those, because we'll have a dark edge. And then after that, we'll start building up the rose, get all the shadows in, all the heavy blacks, gives us a black point. And then from there, we can work backwards, get those tones in nice and solid. And that way, keep all the values correct throughout the piece. And get that nice dynamic look to all the shadows. Make sure that all the highlights make sense. So I'm just going to dip into my black, because these sort of like the vein lines running through the leaves, I want those to be nice and solid. So once I get this once I get all the shading in and the tones, I still want these lines to be very obviously there. So we're just going to run through and just get those in nice and solid. So even though my stencil is going to be staying on fairly solid, I am still, out of habit, dabbing as opposed to wiping. That'll help retain your stencil and just stop you from rubbing off your stencil before you get these grey lines in. Obviously, the more you wipe, the more you're going to rub off your stencil, and it's just going to make you stress out once that stencil's gone and you can't see what you're doing. The last thing you want to do is start making stuff up. So with these lines, I do want to get them in fairly accurately, but at the same time I don't want to be spending too long and being too overly precious about what these lines look like, because they are all going to be hidden once we get into the tattoo process. So now I've got this first leaf done, I'm just going to go back into my light wash, and then we're just going to start whipping over these outlines for the rose. So again, I want the lines to be nice and solid with a light wash, but I'm not too overly precious about exactly how these are all going to be. The great thing with roses and anything organic is you do have that ability to push and pull and change a few little bits, and no one's ever going to really know, but you can make it look how you want it to look like. For example, people aren't going to know exactly where any little dips, little divots and any little cuts and breaks in any of the petals are. So as long as aesthetically it looks appealing, then you've sort of done your job. So you'll probably notice as I do go around this, going off what I've just said, that I'm not exactly always following the stencil to a T. If as I'm doing these lines, especially on the outer edge, I feel like I need to sort of go around a certain area or add extra little bits in, I can always do that at this point and just adjust that outline so it fits the body part, the hand, the arm, the leg, exactly how you want it to be. And especially through experience, if you know any bits that aren't potentially going to stay in or they're going to drop out, you can avoid those areas. If your client's got any any skin imperfections, scars, or anything like that that are permanent, you can always avoid those at this point. So with this, the one part that I'm not going to put an outline around are these lens flares that we spoke about before, on the top and on the bottom, because I want those edges to be nice and fluffy. We'll do something slightly different with a mag later on to give us a sort of a temporary outline for those. But we don't want to put like a solid line through there because they're going to be too crisp and they're not going to give us that effect that we're trying to achieve. So as we start going just up to this top section here, where the edge of the petal starts coming into the hand of this portrait, what we're going to do is we're just going to just adjust that slightly so it goes into this shadow section, and that way we can just make the two tattoos work together simultaneously and work together and look like a nice piece that's been thought through as opposed to two separate tattoos. Again, I'm just dropping this petal a little bit further down. So hand position and speed is really important. Like I said, I've got used to the speed of this machine. So the way that I pull a line is giving me a nice smooth line. With this machine, if my machine was running slightly faster, I'd probably need to work a little bit faster. If it was slower, just so you're not getting those peppery lines, for example. Hand placement is always a big importance as well, in the sense of you want to get your hand nice and sort of clamped down on the body part that you're tattooing. So it's going to give you a lot more stability. It's going to allow you to get those nicer, straighter, sharper lines, and it's also going to help potentially if your client's going to jump or move, twitch. It's going to help reduce those, stop you having any issues with the tattoo in that sense. So just quickly whipping through all of these outlines. Again, this is very similar to creating a stencil in that sense. So at this point you should be well versed with what you're doing, in the sense of you've already sort of messed around with the tones of the image. You've now spent time doing the stencil, getting all that sorted. So by the time you come to doing these scratch lines or grey lines, it's going to be a walk in the park, as you've already done it, 2 or 3 times during the process. So already get a few of these lines in, I'm already feeling a lot more confident about the stencil and how it's all staying in. I'm able to sharpen up some edges, make sure I can really see what I'm doing when I get into the shading process. So just going into black from that light wash, so that'll just give us a slightly darker tone just to get these last 2 leaves in. So I've got 1 leaf up at the top here. So again with my leaves, like I say, I'm a creature of habit, I do the same thing every time, so I get this nice middle section in, and then as I'm working down the line that's been sort of applied there with the stencil, just add a few little bumps and breaks just to make it look a bit more leaf-like and less perfectly smooth. Once we've done those, we'll just quickly fire in those veins of the leaf. Every tattoo artist who does floral stuff or roses, they all have their own unique ways of doing their leaves. So this is how I do mine. Like I say, I do the same every single time. That way, if I need to freehand anything else on, any extra leaves, and get things to work with existing pieces or extend things, it's easily done. So again, just into my black. Got 1 more leaf on the top of this knuckle, and then we're probably about ready to start shading. So again, we'll start off with this spine of the leaf. And get the outside in. So yeah, that's pretty much my outline all done. So as you can see, it's not the crispest of outlines, but like I say, it's only there just to hold shape. So I don't want to spend too long making these absolutely perfect. All these lines are going to be covered up by the time we get into the process. But yeah, that's pretty much all of that done. So like I say, the main reason for doing all this is so that as we start tattooing and we start wiping and everything else, we can't rub the stencil off now, like we physically have these lines in there. So now we're just gonna be building off this and turning it into the nice realistic rose that we've got on the reference. So we're gonna take our 7. We're gonna take our 7 curved mag or flat mag. I think this is a flat mag, but either which way, 7 mag, get a fresh paper towel. And then we're gonna start shading. So we're gonna start with the leaves, get all those done first, and then we'll move up, get some background done, and then go from there. So we're gonna go sort of dip into the dark and then just tap into the black. That's just gonna give us like a black tone, but not quite as heavy as black, but a little bit darker than dark. Which is sort of where I want to be. That way we can then use the dot to blend out of that, the medium and light. It'll give us that nice sort of smooth airbrush finish. So we'll start with this leaf at the bottom. It's going to start from the tip of the leaf and we're just going to work our way down that spine section just to sort of beef that up a little bit. So mag shaders are so versatile in the sense of you can do what I'm doing now, where I'm just using it on the side. I'm trying to catch that bottom row of the mag. Just using it on the side, it's going to give me the ability to get a nice sort of straight line in there, but then I can sort of twist the mag very slightly. It's going to sort of open it up a little bit and give us that slightly darker, thicker line. very, very easily. So if you've ever tattooed a pound of flesh or fake skin, and you've never tattooed real skin, take it with a pinch of salt, because you do have to really work these practice skins to get those tones in there a lot more than what you do with skin. So yeah, you don't want to be tattooing someone's skin exactly the same as how you tattoo practice skin, because you'll probably make them cry. Obviously the bonus is practice skins, especially pound of flesh, like they don't move, they're not going to fatigue throughout the day, they're not going to need breaks. You can come back to it, you can keep adding and playing around with it. So in that sense, they are a great learning tool. Just to hone your skills with a tattoo machine and techniques really with how to use certain needle groupings and new machines, etc. But there is really nothing that beats tattooing real skin. All comes close to it. So with my leaves, what I'm doing is I'm just hitting the outer edge first, getting that nice and dark, but I'm always fading out. So what I don't want to do is put a big heavy black strip all the way out on the outside of my leaf. It's going to make it incredibly difficult to fade out. So yeah, for me, I'm always fading, and I'm always technically, well, it changes from section to section, but for this bit especially, I'm technically whip shading. So I'm sort of burying my needle in dark into this dark section, and I'm just whipping that out. So I'm always fading out, and then I can just keep moving closer and closer to the center of the leaf, and just bring that shade in exactly where I want it to do. So at this point, I am eyeballing. I'm not necessarily using my reference. Again, because I do my leaves the same every time. I'm just trying to make them look like how my leaves normally look. So I'm still dark, still black. Get all these dark sections in first, and then I can work my tones down from that. So this bit where it just hits the leaf, I just want to run across that edge. Again, I'm using sort of a combination of whip shading and tight circles just to get that packed in. But like I say, I always want to be fading out. I don't want to be putting any harsh strips in. It just means you're going to end up making those dark sections a lot bigger than what you would intend to do, just because you're going to have to try and smooth those out, which means you're just going to have to push it a lot further, and you're potentially going to ruin the integrity of the piece. So always be smoothing out. You can always build. It's the great thing with black and grey is you are layering, you are building. You've just got to be very, very aware of how you're working the skin. Make sure you're not overworking, causing too much trauma, which is just going to result in a bad heel, and it just means you're going to have to touch a load of stuff up. It's going to be a waste of your time, waste of your client's time. So keep that trauma down. So with my leaves, what I tend to do, like I say, I get all of my edges, so both sides, sort of pretty much black, faded out with black, and then what I'll do is I'll figure out which way my light source is coming from, and then I'll work from that spine, give me a fade up, and then the opposite side of the petal, I'll fade from the outside in, and I'll just give me two hot spots on both sides of the leaf. And I'll just give it that nice sort of like curvature to the leaf and get it looking like how my leaves generally look. Like I say, just giving me that uniformity throughout all my tattoos. the worst part about tattooing hands and the fingers. Trying to navigate between the fingers is always difficult. It's not too bad with these pound of flesh because, like I say, it's not trying to fight me. But you know, when you're manhandling someone's fingers, sometimes it can, your clients tend to fight you quite a lot of the way. Especially because fingers have a tendency of dropping out as well. Like, you really need to make sure everything's packed in there nice and solid. So your clients don't tend to thank you for that. So again, I'm packing it nice and solid, but I am whipping out constantly just to make sure that I've got those nice smooth tones. I'm not putting any big solid bands into anywhere. Just going to make my life more difficult to soften out as we go forward. Let's get that nice sort of feathered look. I'm just using a combination of backwards and forward strokes. Clip it in the middle. It's just going to give it nice and smooth, nice and feathered. Again, that nice airbrush sort of look that we're after. I'm going to go back into my black and dark combination. I just want to get this little bit of background in between these two petals, mainly because it's a lot darker than the petals, and that way it means I'm not going to get tempted to make the petals too dark, and that way when I try and apply the background later, I find out that I've gone too dark with the petals and there's no way to get blacker than black. So get that in now, and that way I can then work my tones in the petals off this background and make sure that those tones are exactly what we want them to be. At this point I feel like I'm starting to get to grips with the pressure and the speed that I need to apply to the pound of flesh. Like I say, it is very different to tattooing a real skin, like a real hand, so bear with me. But like I say, a lot of this is mainly just for how I approach the tattoo, the different techniques that I use as we're going through it. A lot of these you'll have seen in my previous time lapses. This one I'm just going to be going a little bit deeper into the whys and hows. If there's anything you want to know specifically about what I'm doing at any point, drop me a comment with a timestamp, and I'll try my best to explain any part of this process, why I do it, and what that does with regards to the tattoo and the results that I get. So I'm off my black, and I'm just using my dark wash just to give me a slightly lighter tone as we work our way across this knuckle underneath this petal. I just want this to start fading out ever so slightly. I'm just going to create a little bit of a drop shadow underneath this petal just to give us a little bit of dynamic look, some dynamic shadows, just to make it look a little less flat, a little less stuck on. Yeah, and this is the great thing about black and grey, you do have the ability to push and pull tones, to adjust stuff on the fly. Alright, so just move my second camera, so this one here, just so we can get a slightly better view on what I'm doing. Hopefully over on my left shoulder should be pretty good. Just to be able to see exactly what I'm doing. So when I'm cleaning down a real person, I'm not this rough. I'm just trying to get it off this silicone hand. So this is one leaf done on the knuckle, and then we've got that dark shading done there, and just a little bit of a drop shadow. I'll probably smooth that out a little bit further as we go down. So we move through the piece. I'm just going to get this next leaf done, and then we'll start carving out these lens flares, get this shading up this side. Then we'll come back around this side, get this leaf done, sort of get this lens flare sort of mapped out a little bit of background shading, and then we're into the rose. So again, dark wash, tap into my black, and then we can start getting these dark tones in. So we get the spine in straight away, get that bit done. Then we work this bottom edge with this shadow on the outside. Just using the edge of the mag, so sort of on the side, just using that edge just to work our way down that scratch line that we put in. Again, this is where you're going to really thank yourself for putting those scratch lines or grey lines in at this point. Just because you can't rub them off, it's going to give you that real nice, sharp, clean, punchy edge as those black and grey tones just sit into that little groove, that little trench that you've dug in with those lines. It's just going to keep the edge of those leaves looking real nice and crispy, as opposed to if you did just use the mag, chances are it's going to look almost fluffy and out of focus. If you did want to create that effect, obviously don't put scratch lines in, which is going back to those lens flares. That's the main reason why I've decided to not do scratch lines on those, just because I do want them to have that fluffy look to them, slightly out of focus, so they create the effect that we're trying to achieve with those. So you can see, I just do that bottom edge. Trying to focus. So you just do this bottom edge first, get that bit in, and then we'll start doing the same on this top edge, but not quite as deep, so a little bit sort of tighter. Then we'll work off that middle spine towards this top edge, which will give us a gradient, and then we'll probably smooth this bit out a little bit more after we've done that. So back into darken and black. And we'll just get this top edge in. Now I've got that top edge in, nice and tight. We'll just go back to this middle bit and start pushing these tones out with black and dark wash. So we want these leaves to be nice and solid, nice and dark. It's going to give us a nice contrast, a nice sort of outer look to the rose, give place and purpose. Bump that contrast up. So now I've got that leaf in. I'm just going to go into my dark wash, and we're just going to do a little bit of background between these two leaves, just come off this petal. Nothing too wild. Again, because the outsides are already black, using the dark wash and not hammering it in too solid, we are going to get a difference in tones. You know, it's going to be a dark background, but it will just, the leaves will still stand out, be separate from the background. So I'm just pushing at this point, whipping out, just to give us this nice little drop shadow underneath these leaves. So now I'm just going to tap into my medium wash and into my light. With these lens flares, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of use my mag on the side. It's going to give me a nice big sort of outline almost. I'm just going to sort of whip that in, sort of nice and light, enough that we're going to be able to see it, but nice and light that we can just shade and fade that out once we get the shading into the rose. And I say this is mainly just for if you've got a stencil that's going to rub off. The stencil isn't really shifting, so I don't have to worry too much about it. As I come down here, I just want to fade that off, so I don't want to do the whole circle. And it'll just give us a very light sort of ghosting around those lens flares, as you can see. And then as we get into this petal, all of this outline will be gone on this petal because this is our shadow. There's a big shadow section on this bit, so we'll get rid of that. And then as this comes around and just disappears, we'll get rid of that in the background, which is what we're going to do now. So we're going to go dark wash, tap into black, a little bit of inkies, and then just start getting this background in. So I'm probably going to end up getting all of this done just with this. I want to say this is a 9 mag, but I thought it was a 7. It could be a 7 or a 9. But this is going to be more than big enough now that I'm working into this to get this background done. I may have got a 15 mag if it was a little bit bigger and I wanted to get a little bit smoother, but as I'm working on this pound of flesh, which happens with real skin with different people. You get some people that have really good skin, you have some people that have not so great skin, and not from like a visual point of view, just how you tattoo it. Sometimes people go really red and angry, sometimes it just absolutely flies in like it is on this. If it is getting really smooth, then it's unnecessary for me to get a bigger mag out just to get this background done. If I can get it done with what I've got, then I might as well. So again, just backs and forwards, it's going to give it a nice feathered edge, soften it out into the skin. So this is still with black and my dark wash. So dark wash tapped into black. For me, I like to keep these tones, I like to work as close as I can to the left hand side. So into my blacks and my darks just means that my piece is going to have a nice high contrast. It means it's going to should heal nice and solid. Those blacks really nice and black. and just give you that nice contrast. If I do need to smooth out and get rid of some mag marks, get rid of some of that peppering, then I'll start working down my tones into my medium and light. But having half a dozen different washes out and working your way through all of those, for me, it's just very unnecessary to need to do that much, especially when you can, for me, dip between tones. Like I say, you can load your cartridge up with dark wash, tap into black. It's just going to give you that little bit of extra punch. Or vice versa, you can go to medium tone and just tap into dark. It's just going to give you that in-between tone if you're really trying to get things smooth. A lot of the time through healing, skin will smooth a lot of stuff out. So don't need to be too overly concerned. Obviously you want things to be smooth, you don't want a choppy looking tattoo. But yeah, through experience, you'll figure out what is necessary and what is unnecessary through the tattoo process. You tend to find that in the early days you'll try and get all these extreme and incredible details into your tattoos, but through healing they're just not going to stay in. So you just wasted a bit of your time, a bit of your client's time, caused a bit of extra pain. So just get this last little bit of background in on this side, just where the rose meets the hand. So I'm now going into the existing tattoo, just working that background into the background that I'm doing here, so it all meets together nice, works as one piece. I'm going to do while because there's a lot of shadows on the petal here that I do want to keep nice and solid. So I'm going to want this background to just fade out around that. So just smoothing out a little bit of this background, just where it'll create a little bit of a stripe, bit of a dark strip that we didn't want. So just sort of hitting the top of that, feathering it all out, getting nice and smooth. That's what we want. So now we've done this background down this side. We've got these leaves in, we're just going to come back around this side, get this leaf in, get sort of this lens flare in, and then that's all of our background done, and we can start working on the rose. So I'll just jump straight over here, get this leaf in. So again, we're back into dark wash, tapped into black. I'm just trying to catch the edge of my mag, just to give me that nice crisp line that's packed in nice and solid. So now I've got the spine done, we'll just work down this edge, and it's nice and solid. Again, always fading out. So now we've done that bottom side, we just get the top edge done nice and dark. And then we drop into fading off and off that spine of the leaf. Now I'm just dipping just into dark wash on its own, just to help smooth out the blacks into the skin. Just a little bit of black, just to touch up the tip of the leaf, just so that's nice and solid and it stays in through healing. And then the other little bits that just need crisping up. So that's our leaf done on this side. Focus. Now we're just going to add a little bit of background. Just up the outside of this rose, get it to knit in with the existing piece, and then we can start getting into the rose itself. So same again, dark. Tapped into black, just very, very lightly. We do want this to stay as close to sort of dark wash as we can sort of keep it really. And just creating that shadow effect underneath the leaf. And at the top where we've got this lens flare, we'll just whip a little bit around that background wise, just to hold that shape in. Making sure that we're not losing the definition of that leaf. We don't want the background to be that dark that we start losing elements. Background is exactly what it says. It should just be background more than an element itself. You don't want to take away from the subject. So as we start getting to the top, we start getting closer up into the existing tattoo. So we'll move this arm around a little bit. So now we're just going to go straight into black. Just because I've gone fairly heavy with what we've got in these existing ones, so I just need to sort of get as heavy as what is existing, and then I can start smoothing out. Soften these existing pieces into what we're doing now. Start knitting it all together. So now I'm into just dark wash. Just going to try and smooth all this out. And like I say, get it all working together, looking like one piece, like it's all meant to be. Just going to go just into medium grey wash, just to really soften this out. It needs to be a nice smooth looking tone. It's starting to look really nice pulling down against this leaf, so I just want to extend it out a little bit more, but I don't want to bring that black out too far. So just use the medium tone, just to soften it, take it slightly off skin tone, to create a real nice effect around this leaf that we've just put in. So if I give that a wipe, you can see where I've just pulled all of this background down around this lens flare, and we're just getting this nice soft sort of airbrush finish just up to the tip of this leaf, and just creating this little halo around the top of it, which is just creating this really, really nice effect. So that's pretty much all the background done. So try and give this a bit more of a clean, so I'm just putting a bit more extra green soap on there just to try and get a bit of this ink off the surface. So I'm not worried about rubbing my stencil off. One, the stencil staying on really, really well, but two, obviously we put those scratch lines in, grey lines at the start, so that's making our lives really easy, knowing that we can't rub it off at this early part of the process. So rose-wise, we're going to start diving into that. What I tend to do, like I say, I start from the bottom right normally, depending on where I've got the heaviest of shadows. So I'll show you quickly. So this is where we are with this nice fade running down through here. And then I'm going to start sort of down here, get this shadow section in here, maybe underneath this petal, and then we'll come down and get this petal in, where we've got this heavy shadow underneath this petal here that folds over, and then get all that dropped in there. So we'll get 1, 2, 3 petals done first, and then as we start moving up, we start getting into all these big highlight sections, and then we're back into the heavy bit in the middle. But we'll basically just be working sort of a bit like this, sort of leaf our way up until we're all done. So with that being said, we'll dive in. I'm going to go into, again, same as the leaves, I'm going to go dark, tapped into my black. It's going to allow me just to get these darker shadows in and get these dark sections started off. So I'm going to dive straight into where this shadow starts. Again, I'm packing it in, but I also want to be fading out all the time. So where it is darkest, I want to be doing sort of small circles, making sure that's packed in, and then open up those circles quite quickly so that it's got that feathered edge, and we're not creating, like say, like a dark strip or a band of heavy grey wash or black. It's going to be incredibly difficult to fade out. So now I'm just sort of whipping this out now that I've got that dark base, and just making sure that it is fading out like a shadow would. So I am constantly paying attention to my stencil, making sure that I am, to my reference, making sure that I am following that to an extent. Like I say, with organic stuff like this, no one's going to know exactly where these shadows are supposed to fall. As long as it looks true to life, then as a realism artist, then it's what you're aiming to do. But you can take a little bit of artistic license as you're working through these pieces. So I'm just working across where that lighter petal hits this under petal where it's darker. I'm just using the mag to my advantage, so I'm getting the flat of my mag against that line and then feathering out. That way I'm just keeping everything nice and dark where it needs to be, feathering that shadow out into the lighter sections, and like I said, just letting my mag do all the work for me. Glad when I get past these knuckle sections, obviously I'm having to adjust and change the angle of how I'm holding my machine to work with the contours of these knuckles to make sure that I'm getting this nice smooth finish, but it does make your life incredibly difficult. Obviously if you've got areas of the skin or the body where you've got lumps and bumps, you start catching those in your mag, same as if you were trying to do a haircut like a barber would. You start catching those, you're going to start going in a little bit deeper, putting in slightly darker tones. So yeah, just in sections like this, you just have to take a little bit of extra time, just be a bit more aware of the landscape almost that you're tattooing over, all the hills and the valleys. last few little bits on this shadow. Just making sure that we're nice and smooth and it falls off where it needs to fall off. And we're right up to this line. Shadows always look very dark and very harsh when you've got no other points of reference in there, so don't worry too much at this point. So I'm just saying, true to your reference, everything should be fine. So we'll just skip over and start getting this shadow in here. So this is next to the lens flare, so we start off pretty dark on the underside of this top petal, but we just need to be aware that we are following this lens flare around and not putting any tones into that section. We will get some in there, but we just need to get everything rose-wise in there first, and then we can start adding those extra little finishing touches at the end. Now we've got the really dark heavy bits in, we're just sort of fading that out, creating that shadow fall off, so it's dark to medium. Trying to stretch the hand just so the knuckles aren't too much of an issue. So we've got those nice big soft tones in, nice and easy. Working our way around these lens flares, starting to build up these tones. I say black and grey is great because you are layering all the time, so you can push and pull. So keep having a look and seeing where you are tone wise and value wise. See if you need to add anything extra. This edge, we're just going to come off at a bit of an angle just to get this bottom shadow in, just where the petal rolls over, just to give it that nice 3D look. And now I'm just in with my medium wash, just quickly whip shading over, just to feather out all of this shadow. I want to take it just slightly off skin tone, so I don't want it to be dark, but I do want it to have that shadow sort of section look to it compared to the rest of the rose. Again, I think a little bit of this is that experience. I think normally I would have left this and then tattooed the rest of the rose and then looked back and gone, oh, actually that needs to be a little bit darker, and then got back into it. But whilst I'm working here, I can see that that's probably going to happen. So if I can just get that in now, I shouldn't have to do too much in the way of coming back and darkening areas up later in the process. So now I've got those two sections done there. I'm just going to jump up a little bit. Just get this shadow done underneath here. So this area I hadn't quite printed on my stencil, so I have to sort of eyeball this bit in. Again, this is why it's important to pay close attention to your stencil, to your reference at all times, just to make sure that you are copying it as accurately as possible and not making too much stuff up. Like I say, there is a lot of artistic license that can be had when doing tattoos of this nature. But at the end of the day, we are looking for accuracy and attention to detail. So we'll just get these last couple of shadows. So dark wash is tapped into black. Just get these shadows just on this bottom side. So this is the same as what we did on that other petal, where we're just getting that shadow on the underside, which is going to give us that slight little bit of roll off, create that 3D effect, so your petals don't look flat. I want to have that curvature to them, make them look as rose-like as possible, I suppose. So annoyingly, there is a bit of an imperfection with the mold on this pound of flesh hand. So it feels very much like tattooing over a very heavy scar. So again, I'm having to sort of work with that imperfection, make sure that I'm not going too dark over that, but it's not catching my mags and making me hit the skin too hard. But strangely enough, it does fall quite well. I think when we were doing the outlines earlier on, doing the grey lines, just adjusted that just to follow that shape of that scar in essence. And I just make it look as natural as possible. So now we've got those sections in, I'll just give it a little extra white. We can see exactly what we're dealing with and where we're at. Again, I do not wipe this harsh when I've got a client, but so this is where we're at. So we've got these shadows falling off the bottom. We'll just create this rollover at this side. So this is where this little imperfection of the mold was. It just sort of falls right on the edge here. So we're getting there slowly but surely. We'll get these last two petals in, and then that's the big petals done. Working on flatter sections of the body is so much easier to tattoo and so much quicker. Not being too concerned about, say, like the lumps and bumps. You'll just get those tones in a lot faster. So dark and black again. Just going to jump up and start getting these shadows on this petal just above. Again, this is one of the last heavier, darker petals. Dark black, and just start building up these really heavy shadows underneath everything on the depths of the rose. I'm just going to go into my medium wash and just tap into my dark to build up this shadow. So dark and black again, just to get these two shadow sections. You know, these curled over sections of the petals. So you can see I've adjusted my hand just so that I've got sort of my wrist action going with the curve that I want to create. That way I'm not trying to battle my own hand to try and get these nice smooth curves in. Now we're going to come over to this side Probably do a little bit more smoothing out on this side in a second, but I just want to get some of these darker tones in first so I can see where all my heavier tones lie, and then once we've got those in, we can then start working sort of backwards, getting sort of the medium and lighter tones in, making sure that we're not affecting the values of the piece too much. Dark wash just to get into this little section here. Going to add this little shadow section in here, which runs to this just over. And then just get this little section at the bottom where it just flicks up. Start building that up. So I'm going to go too wide with these areas. I want these to stay nice and soft, but we do need to get that a little bit of a roll over just to give us that 3D look. Now we've done those sections, we'll just hop it, start getting this next layer in. Again, I'm always focusing on getting the darkest section in first and then move it into the lighter sections. Just means I know I keep going on, but just keeps those values and those tones nice and solid. I'm just going to give you the best contrast and the best looking tattoo and possibly achieve. Just with that real simple technique, just hitting those darker areas early on and then working backwards through the tones. So at this point, I'm just going to give it a little bit of an extra wipe. So this is where I'm at. Again, we don't need to worry about rubbing the stencil off because we've done all the scratch lines. And again, this isn't how I rub a client's arm or hand. So this is where we're at currently. So you can see how we're starting to get these shadows in, starting to have this nice sort of dynamic look to it. So you can see all these shadow sections underneath here, which is just raising up this petal, and then these little tiny shadows underneath here. So we'll keep going, we'll get these darker sections in the middle of the rows. Then we'll start getting a few extra little bits in this lens flare. So where this line is underneath here, we'll get some more shadow sort of section underneath there just to make it look more like it's a highlight sort of lens flare over the top. So we're going to carry on with the mag, get everything in. Once we've got everything in with the mag, we'll go through and sharpen a few bits up, make them look nice and crispy. Probably use the 9-round liner just to punch in some of those edges. As it says, we'll just get all these tones in nice and solid. So we're back getting these dark tones in first. So just gonna go straight in. Just get this black nice and packed in, nice and solid. Just in this heavy shadow area here. So like I say, I'm trying to find the darkest, heavier sections, getting those in, and then I can work backwards off those tones. Again, if there's anything you want to know about the process, what I do, what I don't do, drop it in the comments. I'll go through them. I'll try my best to answer any questions or anything you don't quite understand about what I'm doing. Try and help out as much as I can. So dark and black still. Get this really heavy section in down this little knock. Just whip shading this out, just get it nice and smooth, a nice smooth gradient throughout this larger section. Just I'm moving a little bit faster, a little bit bigger with my strokes, just to try and get it as smooth as we possibly can. So it's not the nicest surface to tattoo, but it is a great sort of training exercise to tattoo these. If you're trying to learn, trying to do something new, something you've not done before. Obviously you tattoo someone's skin and mess it up, it's pretty permanent. Tattoo on this, you can practice and figure out it's going to work. New techniques, new things to tattoo. So just darkening up this shadow a little bit. Now that I've got that shadow on the underside, this one looks a little bit too light in comparison, so might be a few that will nip over as we go through, but this one at the moment just looks a little bit light, so let's take this opportunity just to nip over it a little bit. So a lot of this is just from eyeballing the rose, the reference. Just make sure everything's in there nice and where we want it to be. So I'm just going just in with dark now, so there's no black in this, just dark wash to get this shadow falling over this petal underneath that dark section that we just did. And then the same as before, we just get this rollover section just to give us that 3D vibe, to give us that volume to the petal so it doesn't look flat. We'll just have a little look and see where we're going to go next. I'm just going to go medium and dark just to darken up this petal, just an absolute fraction, just where it hits the lens flare. I just want to carve out a little bit clearer. So this is probably a little bit darker than what it is on the reference, but it's just going to help with the general look of the rose of the tattoo. And the same with this bit, I just want to darken this up so it fits in a little bit nicer. And we'll just get this drop shadow in. Easy. So now it's time to get into the little tight sort of faffy bits in the middle. This is always my more favourite section of the rose, where it sort of really starts coming together and looking like more like a finished tattoo, more than just a load of stencil lines everywhere. So again, there's a little bit of my stencil missing, so I'm just adding that back in just from what I can see on my reference. Got enough sort of marks on the skin now that I can make sure that all proportions are going to stay correct. I'm not going to be putting anything weird in by stretching. Not that I can particularly stretch this skin, but if I was working on actual skin, this would still be possible. So I'm dark and black still. So just getting into these very tight sections in the middle. Just using the edge of my mag just to get in there, get all these bits carved out nice and solid. Just working my way across these edges and these lines just to get us those nice little crispy layering of all the separate little petals that are overlapping in the middle bit, but also being aware that we've got this lens flare that falls through the top, so we want that to stay nice and round and do what it's supposed to do, laying over the top and giving us that nice sort of extra bit of dynamic lighting, extra element to the piece. Get some sort of light tones just on the edge of this lens flare at the top, so I can see where that edge is. And then I've got one more big shadow just to get in down this back side. And then that's the bulk of the rose done. After this, we're going to be into pretty much finishing touches, darken up a few edges, make things a little bit crispier, get a little bit into the lens flares. And then we're going to be looking at just a few little details, so a few little water droplets, which will drop over the top, and then some white highlights, so nice and easy. Big shadow in all the way down this side, and just darken this underside now that we've got that shadow in, just so that all the shadows are falling in the right way, in the sense of like they've been cast down the rose. And we've got one more shadow down on this back petal. I think I've said in one of my previous videos, when choosing reference for roses, for me, I like to choose roses that have got lots of nice, interesting shadows. Makes your life a lot easier when you're tattooing them. Usually I haven't just got these big, flat, open space petals. Just gives you nothing to work with, nothing to make look exciting or interesting. At least this way, when you put all these nice shadows, you've got a lot of texture. A lot of interesting things to look at, a lot of interesting things that are going to help create those shapes and that movement to the piece. I'm just going to get dark and then medium, a little bit of inkies. Give this another little extra bit in the shadow. I've got a few of the extra elements around the outside, it just needs to be a little bit darker. So I've got a bit of a shadow here. It's like a triangular shaped shadow, just to lift up this edge. And I'll just drag these out a little bit further. Exaggerate this section a little bit, so it makes it look a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of an extra wipe, just so I can see what I'm doing. And the next job's just going to be getting this top lens flare carved in. And then, like I say, we're on to finishing touches. So with these lens flares, I basically want to drop my tones 1 or 2 tones lighter. It's going to give us this idea that we've got these 2 overlapping lens flares over the top. So I'm going to start again with the darkest part, which is this bit at the top where we've got it sitting over the top of the black background. So just get that carved in around the edge of the rose. And then we just want a flat tone across that. And just take it off that skin tone. Nothing too wild, just like I say, just enough just to take it off skin tone. And just slightly less harsh, so it sits in there as a very purposeful part of the tattoo and not just a big circle that you've left out. So medium, then dark, and then the way that we've just done that, we're just going to do that again with the petals. So just observing what tones underneath there. And then just go 1 or 2 tones lighter. Medium tone, I'm just going to do the same again, just with these petals as we work our way down, just so the petals have got something in there, they're not just completely blank, but so we are getting the effect of that lens flare over the top. So with my medium wash, I'm just running through and just smoothing out a few of the shadows, just where I don't want it to be completely skin. I do want some sections to look like they are just naturally in shadow, so not a cast shadow, but they are taking less light than other sections. So what this will do is help to make some of the areas that I haven't tattooed look even brighter. It's going to help create that extra 3D look to the piece. So again, medium tone, just going to add a little bit on the top of this petal, a tiny bit on the other side. Again, just give us that roll over of the petal. Darken these sections underneath here. Which, now that we've got some of these other sections in, we definitely need to be that fraction darker. some more dark wash. Just to bump up the outside of this petal, just the bottom side, just to define it slightly against the shadow that's underneath. So with this bottom lens flare, we're going to do the same as what we did at the top. I'm just going to use a medium tone. I'm just going to go a couple of tones lighter than what's already there. And just keep it real nice and soft. Just taking it off that skin tone. But still retaining that nice sort of circular look of the lens flare. The bottom section, sticking with a medium tone. Just want to get this background again to be a couple of tones lighter, but just to give us that the edge to that bottom petal, just so that we can clearly see the defined edge of where the rose sits across these knuckles. Go back into my dark black combo, just to bump up this shadow just ever so slightly, just to really define the shadow, just to make it look a little bit more dynamic. just going to my medium wash. I just want to create a bit of an edge here. This way it blends into the hand. I just want to be able to see the edge of this petal. It's not technically on my reference, but it's going to just create a nice effect as this blends into the existing tattoos. So now we're at this point, I'm just going to switch over to my 9 liner. Just going to give me the ability to get into some of these tighter sections, sharpen up a few edges, and then we are pretty much there. So again, dark wash, black. I'm just going to hit some of these edges just to give me a nice crisp sort of join between the two sides of a petal. And just really emphasizing these low lights. So now we've just defined those edges that little bit. Just keeps everything looking a little bit crispier. You can start to see where we're at. Move back to this one. So we've got the background elements in there, we've got the lens flares, we've got those leaves across the fingers and the knuckles. We've got the rose looking really nice with those big highlight sections on those petals. Got this leaf that runs over the top of the thumb, and the lens flares that just knit into the bottom of this portrait. So the next job we're going to do is going to get a couple of little water droplets on some of these bigger petals, just to break those up a little bit, give us another little element to make it look a little bit fancier. And then some white highlights, which are going to just pick out some of the edges of the petals, especially in this middle section. And then we are pretty much there with getting this rose in the hand. I'm just going to get these water droplets on, and then then we'll do some white. If you haven't seen my water droplet video, there is a video on my channel somewhere which I tell you how I do my water droplets. They're really, really simple, really straightforward. I'm just going to quite literally freehand these on with my machine, mainly just because this skin doesn't stretch, obviously, so I don't need to Sharpie them on or anything like that. So I'm just going to pop them straight on. So I say, if you've seen that video, you'll know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm just going to quickly pop these in on some of these petals. So we've still got the white highlights to get into this, but as quick and as easy as that just took me, that is a little water droplet there. Somewhere there, should be able to see that. Maybe in this camera. So we've just got this little water droplet just here. Like I say, there is a tutorial that I put together which tells you how to do them. I think it's on Procreate, but it's basically the same thing once you get to the tattoo process. I'm just going to pop another little one on this side, and then those two should do us for the water droplets, and then we're just into the white. So that's the little water droplets done. So that is, for me, at the moment, everything I want to get in black and grey wise. I'm just going to get myself a rinse cup, rinse out my liner needles. We'll start getting some white involved, which will start picking all the nice little edges out, make it look a little bit more crispy, and then we'll have a good look, take some photos. Right, so I've got myself a rinse cup. Hopefully I've got enough green soap. We will find out in a second. So again, for me, using white, putting it in at the end, as opposed to at the start when you put your inks out, just means it's not going to get all crusty and dry up. So I've got some nice fresh white ready to pound in. So white pigment's a lot thicker, so I tend to use a bit more inkies or Vaseline or processed butter, whatever you use, just to stop it from sticking to the surface of the skin, because it is a very different consistency to the black and grey. I'm going to start off using the 3 liner, just get those little crispy lines in, and if I need to punch and pump anything up, I'll use the 9 liner just to give me that nice thick line if I need to. But we'll see how we get on with the 3 to start with. So with my whites, I tend to start with the faffy middle bit and work my way out to the outside petals, just because I tend to find that you have a little bit more to do in the middle section, and it makes the biggest difference as well. So with my whites, I'm just looking at going around the edges of the petals, trying to stay true to my reference, where I've got the nice sharp edges, and those highlights that hit them. I just want to make sure they're nice and solid. Don't necessarily need to go around every edge of every petal. However, most of them you will find there will be a highlight on the edge, and it will help to keep everything nice and crisp. But just stay as close and as true to your reference as you can. It's going to get the nicest, most realistic looking rose. So that we've done the bulk of the middle ones, we'll just start getting out into the slightly bigger petals. So these nice big lines which your client will absolutely love at this time of the day. So if you've got Bactine or Basicane or any sort of numbing stuff, this is a great time to pop a bit on, get your client feeling pretty good. But you are nearly at the end, so even if it does feel absolutely rubbish for your client, there's not a lot left, so get them to power through. So with the white, I tend to have the throw my needle a little bit shallower, so a little bit less than what I would have had when I did the grey lines. This just allows me to run off the tube, and that way just keeping my white lines nice and consistent. So I can just bury the tip of the cartridge right on the skin, just have a real nice consistent white line throughout the whole piece. Down to the last few petals, and then we'll give it a good wipe, make sure that everything's in nice and solid. See if there's any little extra bits that need touching up, see if there's any bits that need that 9 liner just to bump in some big heavier lines, and then a couple little spots in the water droplets, and then we're about done. So these sections here, these for your client, are going to be the absolute worst now, because we are back sort of where we started at the start of the day. So if anywhere's going to feel terrible, this is going to be it. So just bear that in mind when you're battering in these white highlights. But you are going to be causing some pain. last couple of white lines. Just give that a little wipe. See what those lines look like. And hopefully, if they all look pretty good, we've just got to get a couple of little white highlights into the water droplets, and then we're about done. One water droplet done. Let's get this second one in. Nip over a couple of these little lines in the middle, just because I want them to be extra punchy. So I'm just going to give it one final wipe. And luckily that is my last paper towel as well. I counted those well. Again, don't want your client this rough. So with those highlights in there, it just makes all the edges really nice and crisp, which is what we want. It just gives you that real nice dynamic look to it. Obviously this pound of flesh is just a little bit shiny, so I'll get some nice photos taken and post those in a second. But there you go guys, that is tattooing a rose from start to finish on the hand. So there we go guys, that was tattooing a rose on a hand. I will post some photos on my Instagram, so check out the link in the description, check out my Instagram to see the photos of it. Stop waggling that around in my face. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button, drop any comments you want to know about the process, and I'll try my best to answer them. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.